Take care. All right, everybody. Hey, I want to welcome our next guest. Someone who needs no introduction to Midwest Gaming Classic. I hear you've been here a few times. Marty Goldberg, we're going to sit down and chat with today. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. The day's been kind of flying by.
Yeah.
So I understand you've been a part of Midwest from the very beginning.
Yes, sir.
So the very first one.
Yeah. Actually, one of the co-founders of the event. So originally, Dan and Gabby had a show called JagFest 2K1. And that was to honor the Atari Jaguar console, which was their last console. And at that time, there were events across the country, one every year in a new location. It happened to be Milwaukee that year. I contacted them, and I'm like, I was a big archiver, collector, and everything of video games, vintage video games. I'm like, hey, would you guys mind if I showed up and I had like an area just showing off my stuff? It's not specifically Jaguar. And they're like, sure. And that became what's next door, the museum hall.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and then we kept working together, and then the following year it changed to Midwest Gaming Classic, and just grew to what you see now.
I said this earlier, so I've been coming here, I don't remember how many years, but the first year I remember was, and this may be a good memory or a bad, but there was a big tent outside in the parking lot.
Yeah, that was at the Sheraton.
Yeah, and I remember that they had taken beds out of the rooms to turn the rooms into basically the vendor rooms that you see, or the meeting rooms.
That extra wing, yeah.
Yeah, it was wild, because you would walk in and you're like, wait a minute, is this actually, like, because you'd open the door right in the bathrooms, right to the left, and you're like, whoa, and then you see a couple dudes drinking beer, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then eventually you see a Pac-Man arcade in the corner, and you go, okay, I'm in the right place.
Yeah, and that fit with the motif of the event itself, because it's always been by and for the gamers. We've never been an event for the corporations, so they're welcome here, but we've never gone and quoted them like some other shows, or more towards that spectrum. So yeah, at that point of this show's history, I mean, there were definitely not much of a difference between the people's hotel rooms, because they were open, people gaming. You would walk down the hall, hey, how you doing? Game. It was like a very friendly atmosphere. Plus, yeah, some of the on the ground floor in that wing, we would do that. We also had the museum down that wing, vending hall on the tent, and that shows kind of the growing pains of the show too, because we would constantly be bursting at the seams with content, people, and needing to grow, which is why we eventually moved down here. So.
Yeah, and so I run a retail store, I run a video game store, and it's very tricky when you get to that part of you want more space equals more money.
Right.
Is having more space going to generate more money to have the space? Like you have to pick that right time, and if you pick wrong, you overspend and you're in trouble, and and that's tough.
Oh, trust me, there's been, like Dan talked about, there were times that he wanted this show to be done with, and people would not let him, because they love it. People love it. It's a community.
Yeah,
so.
And I can imagine when you put something like this together, your first thought when it's done is, I'm never doing that again. I just assume that's how you feel on Monday and Tuesday.
That's actually the feeling for a lot of people leading up to it. It's like, after this, I'm not, it's just so much to go into it for everybody involved in it. So.
Did you ever think it would get to this level, not even after the first year, but just as it was growing?
And Dan probably can confirm it very early on, because there used to be a convention downtown Milwaukee called Gen Con.
Yes.
That was the big thing with this kind of a community. And I grew up going to that, and was sad when it left the city. And when we were pipe dreaming back in the day, it's like I'd love for this to grow to that kind of level. And lo and behold, that's exactly what this show is now.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you've obviously been a fan of the preservation side of video games. Do you feel like right now we're doing enough to preserve maybe what's coming out right now?
I think there's a lot of preservation efforts going on, a lot of great ones too. Museums, private archives, other locations. I don't see a cohesive effort in those regards. It's a lot of individuals, a lot of individual organizations doing it. And that's not that people aren't trying to work together or doing that. It's just the way it's kind of panned out too. Especially when you have multiple locations competing for these resources to preserve.
Right.
So.
And yeah, almost like there's too many and there's not one that stands out and there's no collaboration. Do you think things like the Internet Archive and emulation sites like Miriam just recently came down, which was one of the biggest hosts of ROMs and stuff like that. Do you feel like that, is that enough access to these things? Like you hear these horror stories of, Japanese companies that had all their code for their old games printed into binders and in a basement, and then they lost it in a fire or a flood or something.
Not just that, anything like it, whether it's graphic resources, drawings, things like that. A lot of these companies tossed them out. A lot of it walked out the door with employees when they were let go. All sorts of things like that. A lot of companies did not have respect for that past unless they could actually make money from it. Like Nintendo is known for being pretty draconian when it comes to their archival material and anything related to their properties. So those were the first things. Like I started writing in the industry back in the late 90s. And at that time, that's when a lot of the ROM preservation was going on. It just started to really pick up. And you could find NES ROMs and Atari and all those for the emulators at that time. And then Nintendo was the first to start cracking down on it, and so on. It's not like they make a fortune off of some of these older ROMs.
Right.
That, a handful of collectors may like or something like that. So.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people also hide behind game preservation as an excuse to, I guess for lack of a better term, steal a game, right? Like if you want to play a game and you emulate it, a lot of people will say that's okay because I'm preserving this game. Do you feel like there's some disingenuous people who are preserving games under the guise of emulation?
There's also the argument that people would say, well, I have the cartridge, so I should be allowed to have the ROM itself, things like that.
That has to be the biggest urban legend, right? In all of video games, it's like, well, I own the game, so I can, obviously you're allowed to make legal copies of your own stuff, right? It's just always been the urban legend of every.
That goes back to VHS tapes. I have a copy of the tapes. I'm allowed to make a copy of it myself.
Yeah.
So, I can see both sides of the argument with that too. I try and err on the side of preservation. And that's something that the Internet Archive does too. If the copyright holder comes to them and says no, absolutely not, then they'll take it down usually. But they'd rather err on the side of preservation. I'm the same way too. I focus more on the historical aspect of the people behind that now too. I've got the Atari Museum display in there right now, which is a lot of behind the scenes material regarding the employees that work there. At one point I was able to go around and visit a lot of these people who are still around there. A lot of them still worked at the different startup internet companies that are out there right now in Silicon Valley. Too. Some went on to work for Microsoft. In fact, one of the guys, the head of Sony and their PlayStation division, is a former Atari employee. So a lot of that stuff is interesting. But I try and focus on their stories because those are the things that are lost. There's a lot of interesting, what was going on in their mind when they were doing the game. What types of things were interesting? What were challenges that happened? What roads did they go down that they decided to go in a different direction? What speed bumps were there, etc. There's a lot of cool stuff like that. That's more at a risk of being completely lost than a lot of the other materials.
I'm always so fascinated by, how the sausage is made, the behind the curtain stuff.
Right.
And I recently read Itchy Tasty, the story of Resident Evil, and it was just fascinating because they talk about the developers, and it's the story of the people behind this. I think it's easy with video games to look at the product and think that's everything, and you forget about the people behind the product.
Yeah, and the history writes itself constantly because history becomes marketing to some people. Nintendo's another example.
Very true.
Where their spin on things becomes the de facto history that people look through their lens when they look back and start analyzing history, and they shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
So, like an interesting tidbit is a lot of the people, there was no actual video game industry before the whole Nintendo, Sega, etc. revitalized in the mid-'80s. What you had was multiple industries with video games in them.
Right.
So a lot of the people that were doing these games were actual just general computer programmers or even electrical engineers who were being asked to suddenly make games. And there's a ton of really cool stories involved with that too, because they're sort of fumbling around in the dark doing this at a time with a lot of whereas today a lot of people take those sorts of things for granted.
Well, you co-authored a book about Atari.
Yes.
So it is called Atari Inc. Business is Fun.
Yes.
And you went on site, right? If I remember correctly, reading right, you actually went out to California.
Yeah, we did a GoFundMe at that time, and my book partner Kurt Vendel, who is the person who founded the Atari Museum, which is what I'm currently running, we did a GoFundMe to go out there and spend a week, and that wasn't all the interviews we did. Those were the in-person ones, but just going all over Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, Berkeley, and interviewing a lot of these ex-Atari people and collecting materials because they were giving them over to us to either preserve or to make copies of them. And it was a very, very unique experience to be able to sit with the person, with Ed Log, and discuss asteroids that he created. Somebody like Owen Rubin, who was doing pioneering robotics at Atari at that time, besides all the game design. So many interesting, unique people, and what's also interesting is to them it was just a job at that time. They all say it was the most favorite job they ever had, but it was a job. So a lot of them are keeping, just like any of us, when we leave a job, we'll have our little basket that our stuff that we put our stuff in when we clear out, and they still have that in their garage or their attic.
To them, it might be like a memory, and to us, it's like this holy grail of archaeology. Where you see it. What was the craziest story? If you could tell on Family Day. What was the craziest story when you were researching?
What I mentioned to some people yesterday, and that was when they were first going and doing Pong. And at that time, that was they had never, Nolan Bushnell, co-founder of Atari, with his partner, Ted Dabney, decided to go into manufacturing because they were originally just an engineering firm. They were because in those days, games were not programmed, they were engineered. It was all electronics for all the different parts that were put on the screen. So they decided to go into manufacturing themselves with Pong. Had no experience really with that. They got the cabinets made by a cabinet maker down the street.
Is that where the name comes from?
No.
Arcade cabinet? Okay, because actually that would have been a really cool connection. I didn't know.
No, the cabinet maker I think still exists. It's P.L. Herbert or something. They still are out there. They're the ones that made most, the arcade games you see here. They're the ones that made a lot of those cabinets still, all through the 80s too. But so they went to them, did an order. They didn't know how many to order, and they didn't think to tell them not to do it all at once because they had a small. We got to see that original location they were out of on Scott Boulevard, and I'd say it's from that wall to this one right here, with up through here is all the offices from here to that sign there, and then that's the storage area. So they had about 100 cabinets delivered all at once. There was no way that was going to fit. The people next door had just moved out. So Ted went and knocked a hole in the wall so they could take over the space and put the cabinets in there, thinking that they could talk to the owner of the whole, complex and say, "Oh, well, we're going to buy that location. We're going to rent that location too." But they didn't ask first.
Yeah. So. Well, I say that a lot. It's easier to ask forgiveness than to ask permission sometimes. So, man, I just have one more question for you.
Yeah.
Do you game on anything modern? Are you playing anything now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on. play pretty much everything. A lot of it's internet gaming for me right now too. When I have the chance, I actually coded in the industry for a time too, so I still have a lot of those connections. I'll go and I'll play on modern PS or Nintendo stuff.
Awesome.
Too, so.
What's the last game you rolled credits on?
Literally this last. Trying to think if it was reissued or not. Some games I did for Taco Bell for Kids Meal.
Oh, nice.
That was the last one I had credits on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate you coming down to help us bring awareness to Extra Life and the Children's Hospital and taking time out of your day to chat with us.
It's a pleasure.
So,
And
appreciate
I think
you.
Your guys' mission is great.
Oh man, thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. That was really great.